Good morning. Happy Monday. No, nobody says Monday. It's never a yay. It is Monday, April the 28th.
It could be Monday. There are people
No.
who work in the service industry, and their weekends are the hardest time of they work hard all weekend. Then they have restaurants that have Monday off.
My mom's restaurant used
to. Yeah.
We used to. It's an Asian restaurant thing. Trust me. We many Asian restaurants, mom and pop ones, anyway, are closed on Mondays. That's fun. I have the fire alarm going off at my house.
Never a dull moment.
So,
are there any dogs or cats that can put the fire out while you're on the air?
Okay, there it goes. I think my mom is cooking something.
Oh, God.
Of Asian restaurant. She's a retired chef.
My mother-in-law used to set off the fire alarm at my place when she cooked. She was very partial to fried fish, and so she would fry fish in the house, and the whole house would have smell like. I mean, the cat was happy, but no one else. Cat's
Not like last night. My house smelled like herbes de Provence. So
that's a good smell, though.
You Frenchies. It's a good smell. Anyway, you guys are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. Today we have a guest coming on at about the 15-minute mark.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't think we've had a social media founder on this show before.
No, that's certainly not. No.
Techie person. Yeah, so I've got a lot of questions. We're going
to be talking with Jeff Dornik. He's the founder and CEO of Pickax.
Yeah, brand new social media site. I think they're in pre-launch is what Jeff is calling it. So we'll kind of dig into that, the whole free speech stuff, and we'll dig into that. Politics, lifestyle, culture, all that stuff, and what his platform is promising to deliver. What'll make it different in the market. So a lot of questions for him. He's going to join us at about 10:15, so another 13, 14 minutes or so. Meanwhile, wherever you guys are consuming this, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button, the thumbs up, because it's different on every platform, but we appreciate you being here. If you want to support our little channel, you can simply do that just by subscribing and following. It doesn't cost you anything. Although if you would like to join us on the Rumble side and become a paid monthly subscriber, a supporter, we will be starting in May. We'll be starting.
May 1st is a very important day for us. Not only
your book.
Yeah, my book comes out it's this Thursday, May 1st, and we become monetized on Rumble on May 1st.
Yes, an official creator. So after May 1st, we will be providing subscriber only exclusive content. There's that. Ted's book coming out in a couple of days. Official.
Available everywhere books are sold.
So hardly any physical location.
Yeah, which is to say, almost nowhere.
Almost nowhere except Amazon until they decide to ban you.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even a joke. Which we could probably ask Jeff Dornik as well when he pops onto the show.
It's not his fault that all the bookstores are dying, but yeah.
I know, but people read social media feeds. They don't read books anymore.
True.
So there's that. I see that our guest has popped on backstage. Hi, Jeff. We see you. We'll be bringing you on shortly in just a minute. Real quick, we want to hit some breaking news that allegedly, Ted, Vladimir Putin says that he wants a unilateral ceasefire. That was breaking just a couple minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. 3 days.
May 8th.
Well, it's not like if he wants one. I mean, obviously he can. It's unilateral, so he can just do it. Starting May 8th, 3 days. Russia is promising not to bomb Ukraine during those 3 days. May 8th, you will remember, Manila, last week I did speculate about this. I said that he would want to do something on May 8th because that's Victory in Europe Day. That's victory in the Great Patriotic War against the Nazis, and I had a feeling that he'd want to pull something for May 8th. Interestingly, it's May 9th, as our friend Mark Sloboda has told us, in Russia because of the time difference. But I think he's conscious of the international ramifications of this. Not to mention, I looked this up, in Ukraine, it was May 8th. So this is kind of like a sly way of saying this, like, hey, so we defeated the Nazis in 1945, and we kind of did it again in Ukraine.
Well, they're all but fully removed. Kind of hard to remove an ideology, Ted.
Oh no! They have that's not. The work is not done. Are you kidding? With the Azovs and all those people.
Yeah. So at least there will be some pause. But Ted, if Vladimir Putin calls for this unilateral ceasefire for a couple of days in commemoration of Victory Day, who's to say that Zelensky isn't gonna?
Well, it's a unilateral ceasefire. You don't have to. The Ukrainians don't have to honor it.
Right. This is. Putin's calling for it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. But the symbolism is there. Excuse me. Symbolism is there.
It's obviously meant to be a goodwill gesture towards Trump, who's trying to negotiate a peace accord here.
Trump, who said some bad, nasty things about this man on the screen this
We should
weekend.
talk about that.
We will talk about it on the other side of the guest, because I do see him popped on backstage, so we should probably bring him on early since he's here.
Yeah, we can do that.
Let him be on his way.
Let him do his day.
Yeah, I feel like CEO. I've never been a CEO, so I don't know what CEOing looks like.
Very busy.
I feel like
very busy. Lots to do.
Right. I feel like you have a gaggle of people that are always going to ask you about, hey, can I do this? Hey, what if we do this? Hey. So I feel like it'd be a very busy schedule if you're a CEO. And I would never want to be a CEO.
No, that is not I want the paycheck, but I don't want
It would be nice.
to do the work. Yeah.
I don't want to do the, being pulled in 50,000 different ways by all the employees. Not interested in that.
Not to mention it's it's criticism like the day is long constantly from people like me who are always just like the CEO of
That's true.
No one ever says
you got to
anything
take
nice
incoming.
About
you got to take incoming.
yeah.
If your title, if it's your name, comma, CEO of XYZ, you've got to take incoming. Yes. That's life.
That's the job. Yeah.
That's part of the job. All right. So with that, let's switch gears and bring in our guest just a few minutes early. So I'm glad he's here. Let's do it.
Very happy to be joined by Jeff Dornik here on the TMI Show. He's the founder and CEO of Pickax. That's a social media site dedicated to freedom of speech and freedom of reach. I'm sure he'll explain what that means. He's also the host of the Jeff Dornik Show, where he's interviewed everyone from Senator Ron Johnson to FBI Director Kash Patel to Dr. Pierre Corey and more. Jeff, thanks for joining us here on the TMI Show.
Thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to chat with you guys.
Likewise.
Hey, so we've got a lot of first of all, a lot of questions besides this, about your actual social media site, but tell us what CEOing is actually like.
Yeah, it's a lot of multitasking and talking to lots of different people in lots of different areas and lots of meetings and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. And luckily, we don't have like a ton of like employees necessarily, but I'm working with teams. Our tech team is based in Texas, dealing with a whole host of different people and all that. So there's definitely a lot of working. I live on the West Coast, but I work East Coast time. So I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and then work through that just because I got to deal with all the East Coast, people and all that. So it's a different lifestyle. And then throw on top of that, we have an almost 3-year-old, son running around the house. And so between that and starting a company, it definitely keeps you busy.
Been there. We're all boy parents here on this show.
Yes.
Apparently. So I get it. My son's only 6. So it wasn't a distant memory of 3 and the trouble that boys get into.
Mine's 21 and it's still not a distant memory.
Yes.
We did just a couple weeks ago. We did have a run in over to the ER just with just goofing around and running into sliced his nose open. Had to deal with that whole thing, no. And so luckily he was a trooper. Did phenomenal. Did great.
Stitches.
But you're being a parent of a 3-year-old boy who has a lot of energy. It's that comes with the territory.
Yeah, that happened to my kid too. And it was like, you get that call. So I'm at the ER. We need to know, are we doing plastic surgery or not? I'm like, for what?
Yeah. Well, it was funny too, because I that next weekend I spoke at an event up in Rochester, New York, and there was a lot of doctors and things like that were there. And I was sitting with a couple of them who used to be like ER, work in the ER and ICU and all of that. And they're like, the kids are usually great when they come in for things like that. They're great, and just like with our son, it's the parents that they have to calm down. That are freaking out and all that kind of stuff. So.
Sure.
I was just at urgent care yesterday, so yeah. I know we spent an hour and a half at urgent care yesterday. But this is like a regular thing for my son.
The kids are troopers. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But it was me going like hyperventilating, like, oh totally. My God, what's wrong with his eye? Oh, is he going to be blind? Like, what do we? Do I need an eye patch? What's happening here? But. To that end, it's very nice to meet you, and we all have that in common. Kids at different stages in life, all boys, and oh boy, have I got things to say about being a parent to a young one in this day and age. But we'll save that for another time because I feel like you and I could talk about that.
Oh yeah,
Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Ted's almost clear. He's got a different issue because his kid's already in college, so that's.
Oh yeah.
But that's a whole different.
But it never ends, as you guys know. It never ends.
It's a whole different set of issues for that generation in this era, which is what we
sometimes involving, as you well know, social media.
That's true.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So first, let me ask you, Jeff, like right off the top about your site. One, why another social media site in an already crowded market space? I mean, because we have Truth Social, we have Blue Sky, Getter. I mean, of course, outside of the mainstream, which is Twitter, which Elon vowed to bring free speech back. Why another social media site?
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, when the whole idea of starting another social media site came up was when Elon bought X, and I started, kind of following along with what he was doing, who he was hiring, what's going on, and I started looking at this, and I'm like, this is not going to be a free speech platform, despite of what he's saying. Like this to me was a big data grab, because I just started sitting here thinking, and I'm like, you don't go and get a loan for $44 billion to defend free speech. You have to have some sort of like return. What's going on? Well, it turns out that I ended up being right, that it was a massive data collection thing in order to incorporate XAI or Grok, his artificial intelligence. And what a lot of people don't realize about Elon Musk is that he is one of the biggest data collectors in the entire world. Tesla is a massive data collection, thing. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that they're collecting data on, basically everywhere you're going in your Tesla. Anytime you plug in your iPhone or any smartphone to charge your phone in a Tesla, they're collecting your data off of your phone, and then it's going into their servers and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that. But if you actually go look at the terms and conditions when you buy your Tesla, you are giving them permission to collect all of your data off of your phone just when you plug it in. So I always tell everybody, be careful when you're riding a Lyft or an Uber and you're plugging in your phone to charge it or whatever it is, because that's all going on a Tesla server. So this was just another thing. And then you start looking at, okay, what are the terms and conditions that they're putting in, as they're developing X when they transferred it from Twitter over to X? Well, they have this policy, and you can go look it up right now. It's called freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means they will basically allow you to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that they have to allow anybody to actually see it. And so that, to me, flies directly in the face of what our founding fathers desired for freedom of speech, where if you go back and you look at the early days, the whole point of the First Amendment, you have freedom of speech and you have freedom of the press. And a lot of people, they think that freedom of the press is that if you're a credentialed journalist, you can say whatever you want. But that's not what our founding fathers intended. Freedom of speech was you can go down to your local town square and you could say whatever you want. You could spout your opinions. You get a freedom of expression, freedom of thought, the whole deal. Freedom of the press was your individual right to write out your grievances, go down to your local printing press, print up a bunch of pamphlets, and then distribute it amongst whoever will take your pamphlet without restriction from the government. So the very definition is without restriction. So they can't limit you. But so you cannot be a free speech platform if they are limiting your reach or your ability to pass out your digital pamphlet, which would be a tweet or an article or a blog or something along those lines. So when everybody's talking about free speech, I think everybody was thinking, okay, well, Elon's not kicking me off the platform. Okay, great. That's nice. But what's the difference between getting kicked off or being able to post something and you earn a following of, let's say, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers or 3,000 followers, and they only let 3 people actually see your post? Is that actually free speech by definition? I would argue not. So that's really became the motivation behind building another social media platform, is trying to bring something where you can have freedom of speech, freedom of reach. We're really leaning into helping content creators to be able to have more direct access to their audience without us being gatekeepers, and then also helping people to be able to monetize, because that's another aspect of censorship that's going on, is the demonetization aspect as well. So we're just trying to basically find how can we use technology to help give everybody their voice back and their platforms back, and be able to support themselves while they are either, being a journalist or being a blogger, being a writer, hosting a show, whatever that might be. We're trying to facilitate kind of bringing back that true freedom of expression.
Jeff, let me ask you about how does that look, right? So the practical aspect of this, I mean, we're basically talking about throttling. And, so I was never dumped off X, but in the old regime, pre-Musk, I was throttled ruthlessly. Basically, I mean, I had about 9,000 followers, and just, sort of during the Biden years, I just noticed that suddenly no one ever saw or responded or liked anything that I did, even though I didn't change my content.
I got labeled Russian propagandist and
Russian media. I remember that.
Because I worked for RT. I was Russian media. I was, like completely shadow banned. I had like thousands of followers I'm still shadow banned on Facebook, but I suspect that's because Zuckerberg has this like no politics. It might not be specific to my politics, but he's basically said like, we're throttling political content, and that's what I do. So
On Pickaxe, are you saying that you have a zero throttling policy completely, or is it partial? What does it look like, actually?
Yeah, we're what we always say is we are content and topic neutral. So we don't get involved in, you have a particular opinion, so we're going to throttle you, anything like that. So what we do is we kind of have a couple different feeds and different ways that we structurally build them. So you have your primary news feed, and within that you have 3 tabs. So you have your news feed. You can see all the posts that are among all the people that you follow. And the next tab that we have is your articles tab, and then the third one would be a videos tab. But in each of those, we do that chronologically based among the people that you follow. But then if there's engagement or somebody likes something that you did, or a comment or whatever it is, that will get bumped back up to the top. Because I feel like that's the most fair way. And that way, if you're logging in, the first thing that you see is either going to be chronological, or it's going to be like one of the more popular things that's getting a lot of engagement. Then you have, so that's just like a chronological, we're not messing with anything. If you follow somebody, you have equal access to their content. The trending tab
Jeff, sorry to interrupt, but one quick question, interjection. So, I mean, are you concerned about sort of the phenomenon of popularity begets popularity, and something that's a slow build might get pushed down, but might have ultimately become, might have grown and then emerged, right? I mean, it's sort of like if you can find a bookstore, but if you go to a bookstore, people go to the front of the store and there's the bestsellers. People are, oh, that's a bestseller, right. And they buy the bestseller. The bestseller remains a bestseller because it was a bestseller, because it was, you know what I mean?
Because they told you it was a bestseller, just like when Oprah tells you, oh, these are my favorite books.
But maybe your favorite book would have been number 6,000 that week, right? So
totally.
Right.
No, yeah, that's definitely one of those things that because I don't want our platform to just be a platform where somebody who's already famous comes on and then they're immediately the top person. There's no competing with them, and they just dominate the platform. Because to me, I want to see people thrive, and I want to see interesting people thrive on the platform. And so one of the things that I'm working on right now, obviously the next couple of steps that we're developing is a couple of new features. We're going to roll out the app, because right now we're web-based only. But one of the things that I do want to be able to do is have a little bit more of a curated feed that maybe we'll add in there, or some sort of recommendation or trending, to where we can begin to highlight people that are posting really good quality content, but maybe they don't have 1 million followers or 500,000 followers or whatever it is, or maybe you've never even heard of them, but they're consistently posting really good content. Right now, the way that we're doing that structurally is I have a Pickaxe news feed that we have on there that we really promote a lot, where we're kind of curating what are the top articles that are being posted on the platform.
Is this on the right side that we have on the screen right here? Is that what it is?
No. So actually, basically, I have an account set up right now it's called Pickaxe News, and we have it to where when you sign up, that will be one of the accounts that you automatically follow, and then that way that's a little bit more of a curated feed. So if we're seeing that somebody's posting an article or a video or whatever it is that seems interesting, then we're posting it, whether that person has 5 followers or 100,000 followers. It doesn't matter. We're going through and we're trying to curate. This looks interesting. We're not pushing this based upon topic or issue or opinion. We're doing it based on, this looks like an interesting, conversation starter, basically. And we're not looking at the follower count when we're deciding that. The only condition that we have to have is that you have to be verified. And the reason why we're doing that is that way we can basically rule out a lot of the trolls and the bot farms, and because we all know that a lot of the intelligence agencies, both ours and foreign, are using these bot farms in order to manipulate algorithms and all of that. So by having a verification system, and the only way you can truly trend or be recommended or really be seen is to be verified, we know that that's actually a human being and not just manipulating the system and the algorithms with bot farms. So that's really our only condition, is you have to be verified, and then if you're posting interesting content, then you may get highlighted on the Pickaxe news feed.
So we already have viewer questions for you coming in. Adrian in Europe wants to know how you plan on monetizing, and would you be any different in terms of data collection, like you pointed out with Elon's version of Twitter X?
Yeah. So our monetization strategy is, we're doing it a little bit differently. Obviously, we have the ability for content creators to be able to put things behind a paywall if they so choose. And so that's one opportunity that we have. The other one that we are doing is we are running ads right now. We're doing a slightly different strategy. Instead of doing impressions based ads, we are doing almost like an affiliate style model, to where we get paid as a company if our ads generate revenue for the company. And so then they will pay us based upon those generated ads. And the thing that I realized from running a podcast network is that it's not as consistent, but you can actually generate more revenue by going down this route. If you're strategic in, the kind of companies that you work with and partner with and all of that, we're also eventually going to develop our own, Pickax Plus, premium stuff, but we're not doing it to where you're buying access or buying views or buying, a higher rank in the algorithm. We're doing it where we're going to be offering particular features that you will probably want. And if you want it, great. If not, that's fine. And we're not going to like penalize you by not being a premium subscriber of Pickax. It's just, we're going to have some extra features, maybe some extra analytics. Maybe you can send out email newsletters. There'll be some interesting, unique things that we feel like you would actually want to pay for. Kind of thing. So that's really going to be our monetization, strategy. But specifically from a content creator standpoint, we're going to be doing a revenue share from our ad revenue among our content creators. But unlike X, where it's really based upon impressions, which is leading to a lot of the clickbait and just the firebombs and everybody posting insanity across the platform, we're going to be doing it to where it's going to be kind of a combination of article views and impressions, post views and impressions, the number of followers that you have. It's going to be kind of this aggregated, almost you could say it's an algorithm, but a way that we're able to see it, that it's not just you going on there and posting controversial, one hit, posts. It's, are you also getting engagement on your articles? Because you can write articles on our platform, which is going to be long form content, which means you're going to have to spend more time and energy and effort into actually, writing. Are your videos that you're posting, is that getting interesting engagement or impressions or views or things like that? So we're going to be looking at it from not just the, can I post this controversial one hit, clickbaity, post. It's going to be, right. Am I providing quality long form content to the platform? And then we'll have a revenue share for content creators on our platform from that standpoint.
And do you view this, your site in particular, will it be aimed towards like a right-leaning population? Is it going to be a destination for the right, the way, at least, I don't know if that was the intent of like, say, Getter or even Truth Social or gosh, I can't even rattle off all of them. But anything, it seemed like at least during Twitter 1.0, anything else that started up was deemed automatically right off the bat as, a far right destination. And, do you want to attract lefties, all types, or is this going to be catered specifically to people, kind of right leaning and further right?
No, yeah. So it's a really good question, and I thought through that a lot in the early days of developing this. I realized like my target audience, that the crowd that I want to attract is kind of center left, center right, because I feel like that's when you really start getting interesting conversations. We can bring back nuanced conversation and actually debate and discuss things without just like, when you start getting into the hardcore MAGA crowd or the hardcore progressive left crowd, a lot of times it's literally just attacks and everybody's just talking past each other, and that's not really what I want. I kind of want, I'm really going after that center left, center right crowd that's just sane. We can have conversations, we can have debates, and we're not hating each other at the end of it. So that's really the target audience. But specifically when it came to those other alternative social media platforms, I know a lot of the CEOs and a lot of the platforms. I actually pitched my idea for Pickax to several of the other social media platforms, and they all turned me down. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go get my own investor and do my own thing. But when you look at Gab, for example, they got big, and I like Andrew Torba as a person, but the platform just got hijacked because the reason why Gab got big was because Facebook started kicking off all the white nationalists and the KKK guys and all the racists and Nazis and all that, and then they had nowhere else to go, so they all congregated on Gab. Torba ended up leaning into that, side of things a little bit, too much, I would say. But what ended up happening was that they just became this cesspool for anonymous troll, white supremacist, Nazi, KKK members. And you can't actually have a good, rational conversation with anybody over there because they're all immediately, if you talk about anything that could have anything to do with the quote unquote with the Jews, all of a sudden it gets hit with Nazis and KKK. And you're just like, this is insane, right? Whether or not the platform is good or not, which I liked structurally the platform, it's just a cesspool for racism and Nazism, whatever it is. So, but then Getter and True Social, they got big in the censorship days of Twitter when everybody was getting kicked off. And I got kicked off of Twitter for interviewing an African-American, conservative guy that was running for Senate out of Illinois. And it was in the middle of COVID. And I asked him, why is the African-American community so hesitant to get vaccinated? Because the rate for the African-American community getting vaccinated was far lower than other races. And he brought up the Tuskegee experiments. And he's like, culturally, we have this stigma that do we actually trust these health agencies when they're coming in for that? And I got banned from Twitter for asking about that and talking about that because I was promoting vaccine hesitancy. Right. And so what ended up happening, I had nowhere else to go, so I went over to Getter along with a lot of my other friends that were getting kicked off, and it was mostly right-leaning, conservative MAGA crowd people that were there. So it ended up being same thing with Gab. We ended up congregating on this other platform, and so you can go through and you can see this. And so then when I saw Pickax, I'm like, it's going to be a much harder build because we don't benefit from people being kicked off of the platform. But that means the nice thing though is that if people are coming over to Pickaxe, it's because they see the value in what we're offering. And so then it's not just going to be this cesspool of one group that's getting targeted by another social media platform and they have nowhere else to go. I'm actually having to go out and I'm earning it. So that's why I'm going on conservative shows. I'm going on left-leaning shows. I'm going on center left. I'm talking to people in the entertainment industry. I've got a meeting later today with an up and coming, comic book, company. It's like, come on over to Pickaxe. Here's how we can help facilitate what you guys are trying to accomplish. And so by doing that, it's a much harder build. But I think in the long run, it's actually going to be a lot more quality. We can actually bring back center left, center right, sane thinking, rational people onto the platform. But every single person that's coming over, we're earning, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I just get kicked off of the social media platform. I have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I feel like we know that Blue Sky launched recently, same founder as Twitter, right? Same guy. I've also heard that he's kind of gone off the rails himself personally. I'm not sure. Don't know the guy. But because he invented Twitter, or, I don't know, I've been a user of Twitter since like 2009, right? Since it was in its infancy. And now there's Blue Sky that was meant to, I think, in my opinion, I don't use it, but it's catered towards the left. If people are going to kind of brand all these different social media platforms, Gab and Getter is for right-wing nut jobs, and Blue Sky is for these soft, squishy snowflake leftists. Is there really a space, you think, for people to want to be a mishmash of things where, I don't know, if there is no censorship on Pickaxe, isn't it just liable to become like this mudslinging place?
Well, so I think that, so when you, the nice thing is that Truth Social already has the hardcore MAGA people, right? I'm not trying to compete with them, right? I was talking with somebody that worked over at Rumble the other day, and they're trying to pitch me on advertising on even Truth Social. I'm like, let the MAGA people go over there. That's totally fine. Like if the MAGA crowd wants to come over to Pickaxe, by all means, come on over, whatever it is. But I'm not targeting that because they already have their home base and they're not leaving Trump that's over there on True Social. They're over there, they're following him. That's totally fine. For me personally, I voted for Trump in all three elections, but I actually endorsed RFK Jr. this last time around, which got me in a lot of heat with a lot of my friends and all that kind of stuff. But it was really interesting because being in that crowd, I started, it really changed the way that I thought through things, where one of the things that RFK Jr. said at a lot of the events that I was at with him was that he's like, I'm not looking at what divides us. I'm looking at what unites us, because those things that unite us, we can actually accomplish something if we actually unite over that issue. That's not to say that we ignore our differences, but let's actually debate the differences, but let's find where we have common ground, and then we can discuss that, and then we can debate our nuanced differences of opinion. And in all reality, I would argue that for a lot of the everyday Americans, our differences aren't as drastic as what you see in the mainstream media and the news. We could actually discuss, debate, and all of that. So I think a lot of what we're going to be able to do with Pickaxe is because I'm not targeting the easy low-hanging fruit of the MAGA crowd or the easy low-hanging fruit of the blue sky crowd, that sort of thing. We can actually just get a bunch of sane people, and so far it's been a pretty positive experience on Pickaxe, where we can have discussions, debates, and nobody actually hates each other. I'm not saying that that you'll never get the hateful rhetoric or the hateful people that are on there. But the thing that I realize is that when you look at platforms like Gab or even like X, where you start to see a lot of the hateful rhetoric, a lot of that is with anonymous accounts. It's with it's being fueled by the trolls and the bot farms and the AI driven anonymous accounts, and even the ones that have the blue check marks. It's the people that have fake accounts, that they're not putting their face on there, they're not putting their name on there, they have no skin in the game. So but with us, the way that we're weeding that out is actually by our verification system, where the only way that you're really going to get found on our platform is to be a verified account, which means that you are who you say you are. And the nice thing about that is that now you actually have skin in the game. So if you say something that's hateful or divisive or whatever, you're actually going to have to stand behind that on our platform and take the blowback. If you say something, we're not going to censor you, but the blowback is going to come from other people or your friends or your family or whatever it is. And there begins to be a little bit of a check and balance in the rhetoric that you don't get on a lot of these other platforms, where you can hide behind a fake account.
Let me ask you about the verification. By the way, I love the theory of that, and no one's been more victimized by anonymous trolls than me.
Trolls are cowards, right?
Well, they're the worst. They're the absolute worst. They're the scourge of the internet. Worst. Now that said, poking around Pickaxe this morning, I took note of that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to be verified, but then I'm like, how do I know you're not going to pull an Elon and collect my driver's license? You have to upload the back and front of your driver's license to be verified, right? Mm-hmm. I'll set aside the fact that some people don't drive, whatever. Point is, how do I know you're not going to sell that data to Elon?
Yeah. Well, so when we do our verification system, literally all we're looking at is your birth date, where you live. Are you in the United States? Because right now we're US based only. But are you in the United States? And does your name match with the name that's on there? And I always tell everybody, if you do have a verified pseudonym or a company or whatever it is, to email us, and we'll figure out how to verify that you are who you.
Yeah, like my legal name isn't Ted, right?
Right.
I mean,
right,
that kind of thing.
Right. So
you'd be able to tell because my middle name is Theodore's, but still.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is that, like, for example, it's like if we're getting a bunch of gamers that are coming over to our platform because we're connecting with Rumble in a way that, if you post a Rumble video, it's playable on our platform. We're rolling out a beta feature to where you can actually connect your Rumble channel to your Pickaxe account, and to where it automatically post your video or your show when you post on Rumble, and it's playable. So we're actually getting a lot of gamers that are hopping over. And I had to start kind of rethinking this, because I'm like, well, the gamer, their name that everybody knows them by on Rumble is not their actual name, but I can see that that's actually the person. So I'm working on a new verification, program to where we can verify. Let's say if you're a gamer and you're on Rumble, I can see that people will want to know that you are actually that gamer person by that handle. And so we're verifying
use that. Maybe. Yeah.
Right. Like, how do you verify Combo Panda?
I mean, we're gonna have to, that's one of those things that we're doing. So one of my ideas is have a different, check mark for verified, pseudonyms or gamers or, things like that, to where, okay, this person, obviously their ID doesn't match that name. However, they are a recognized, person, whether or not you're a gamer or you're, and cat turd's not on our platform, but if you're a cat turd, it's like people are going to want to know, is this the actual cat turd or is this a fake cat turd? So we're gonna have to figure that one out to where maybe we have a different color check mark for these pseudonyms that are on the platform, but that's actually the person that you want to follow and that pseudonym.
And how would you verify them? I mean, I'm just wondering, practically.
So right now, the way that we've done it with the Rumble gamers that have come over is that they'll come over, they still upload their ID, and again, we're just doing a verification, and also for people to know, we immediately delete your ID information from our servers, so we're not holding on to that information or collecting that and all that. But for right now, what we've been doing is the vast majority of them have been able to they have an email that's associated with their Rumble account, and we've been able to verify it that way to where we can see, okay, it's the same person here. So that's what we've been doing. I'm working on a more sophisticated version that I'm still working through with my tech team to be able to do this kind of a thing. But that's one of those things that, like, over the last couple of weeks, we've had an influx of the gamers, and that's where I'm kind of like, I'm gonna have to rethink this one a little bit, because not everybody where their name doesn't match with their ID is doing it for, to hide behind it. They, the gaming community is huge. And so we're trying to figure out how to work through that one. But with the data collection, I will say this, we're not collecting anybody's data. There's a little bit of analytics that obviously we're tracking. It's like, okay, who's getting what kind of impressions, or what are you doing on our platform? We're not tracking anybody off the platform. And I figured out a way that we can target ads to where I don't have to collect your data. So I'm doing ad targeting based upon content and based upon the creators, as opposed to what the users are looking at. So for example, if somebody is let's say writing about health and wellness or food or whatever it is, we're going to know that that's the kind of ads that you're going to want to see, because that's the kind of stuff that you're reading. So by targeting it based upon the topic and based upon the creator and the kind of genre that they're a part of. Yeah, exactly. So like, for example, and they're not one of our advertisers, but it's like, I know if you have a hardcore Republican that's writing about election fraud, you're probably going to want to run a MyPillow ad. So, but maybe somebody that's writing about, like health and wellness and food, they're not going to want to see Mike Lindell pop up on their advertising. The other thing that we're going to roll out here in the next couple of months as well is allow content creators to decide which of our ads will show on their content. So that'll be another way that we can target ads to where they can prioritize, because there's a lot of content creators. Again, if we're going for a more nuanced and center left, center right crowd, there's going to be some people that they may want to have the wellness company advertise on their content. There's other people that have serious problems with the wellness company, and they don't want their advertising shown on their content. So by allowing content creators to kind of prioritize the advertisers that are shown, we're able to target based upon their preferences as well, which I think it's a way that I can target without actually collecting anybody's data.
Well, that's a big deal, because for all those content creators on, let's say on X, and I still dead name it Twitter, because it's Twitter. Yeah. It's Twitter, whatever. Yeah. It's still Twitter. I don't care. But if you're monetized there, you don't get any control or any say over what pops up in your own, within your content, right? Like, you have no control over that. It's all Elon Musk and what they decide for you, and whoever is, paying for that particular spot for whatever reason. So if you're a big content creator, it's Elon's choice. It's not a la carte the way you're kind of describing here. So I know you guys are kind of like in beta, I guess, right now, right? You're in pre-launch. Producer Robbie wants to pop in real quick for a question for you as well. Let me bring him on there.
Howdy.
Robbie.
Hey there, how's it going?
No, it's going good. It's good to be able to put a face and a voice to the Twitter handle. So no, I'm glad to hear about the whole verification change, because I am your favorite bot, Putin Bot Gaming. That is me. So obviously my ID does not match my my moniker over here on Rumble. So that's good. No, what my question is for you is, you're going for, it sounds like more like the populist left and the populist right. And I agree with you. Like I'm a right winger, Ted's a commie, and we have a lot of overlap. Now we have some fierce disagreements, and we had one just before the show started. That was just me against my twisting hosts over there. But No, I just wanted to let you know, I think that's awesome. I like what you're doing. I've been on your platform now for about 2 weeks. Love it. Think about deleting my X account, like honestly, and just be on Pickax just because I hate X. But no, what my question is the way that you're kind of going out and marketing. How are people finding you on a grassroots level? Like, are you going to rallies? Are you going to protests? And if you are you just going to the righties? Are you going to the lefties? Or how are you pounding the pavement to let people know, hey, I'm here. You have an alternative. Elon Musk is not your friend. Facebook is not your friend. And here you can actually speak and people can actually see what is it you're saying. So how are people finding you outside of advertising on X?
Yeah, totally. So there's been a lot of, mostly I've been going on shows. I come out of the more conservative world, but I also created a lot of enemies when I endorsed RFK Jr. instead of Donald Trump. So that kind of changed a lot of the dynamic of what shows have me on and what shows don't, and all that. But I think up till now it's been mostly podcast interviews, going on shows, the whole deal. We're bringing on a publicist that's going to be helping to book a lot more of a diverse interview slate and all that kind of stuff. We sponsored an event called the Summit for Truth and Wellness that was up in Rochester, New York, where we had it was hosted by Shannon Joy, who's radio show host, podcast host, all that kind of stuff. But we had a lot of medical freedom people that were there, and obviously they've been censored left and right, every which way. And so, I participated in a panel there on, technology and technocracy and AI and artificial intelligence and all that. And then there was another panel on medical freedom and all of that. And so that was another way that we did it. I just emceed the walkaway, rallied yesterday in Beverly Hills as well. And then, but we're going to be going to some, a couple of gaming conferences coming up. We're going to be going to, some health and wellness things. I was at the Natural Products Expo West, which is definitely not a cesspool of conservatives over there. And so, so we're trying to be as diverse as we can. And I think it was nice, and I didn't do this strategically, but it was nice that I endorsed RFK Jr. because I think it really helped to help people to understand that, like, I'm not just another MAGA CEO like Getter and Gab and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to bring back free thinking and nuanced conversation and debate and all of that. And also, I think even like yesterday at the rally, like, my main point for being there, and I've talked to Brandon Strzok about this a lot with the walkaway campaign, was that all I want people to do is realize that just because you're a part of a particular class of a group or whatever it is, that you don't have to vote a particular way. Whether and I say this to the Republicans and I say this to the Democrats, is just because you're a part of this group does not mean that you have to follow the leader and just do whatever you're told. You can be your own person. That means that maybe on some issues you agree with the Democrats, and maybe on some issues you agree with the Republicans, and maybe like me on some issues you disagree with both of them at the same time. Right. And so you can have a little bit more of a nuanced opinion, and you don't have to follow the leader just because your leader tells you to do X, Y, and Z. So that's really been a lot of my message, and I'll go anywhere that people will allow me to say that kind of thing.
Why the name Pickaxe? I got to know the name. Why Pickaxe?
So with Pickaxe, we were brainstorming, and we were trying to figure out something that, because I'm trying to be very human centered. I've taken a very anti-AI approach with stuff, because I've got a lot of concerns for the future of AI. Again, it could be a great tool, but also it's also a tool that could end humanity as we know it. And so I wanted to promote a very human centered idea. And so when we were just throwing ideas around, all of a sudden, I forget who it was that suggested it, but we came up with this idea of Pickaxe, and it emotes a lot more of like manual labor kind of mentality. But also, we wanted something that we could turn into a verb. And so what we'd have on the platform is if you like something, you pick it. If you don't, you axe it. And so that way you can have a kind of a positive, negative, reaction to different things. But the other side of it.
And what happens if you axe it? Does it disappear, or does
no? It'll still be there. But so if you pick it, it'll show up and highlight as like a teal green. If you axe it, it'll show up as like a red. So it's kind of like a a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of mentality on the way that you can
like downgrading it.
Because I mean, one of the things I hate about like Reddit, for example, in their interface is, you could have say 1 million likes, upvotes, 1 million downvotes, and so the net is 1 or 0. But the fact is that thing engaged with 2 million people, but it looks like nobody cared. That's stupid.
Because it's a wash.
Right. And so we're not doing it as a way that you can upvote or downvote in the algorithms or the way that it's seen. To me, the way that we're treating it right now, and we're going to again fine tune a little bit of everything as well as we go along. But both of those are seen as an engagement, because I don't want it to just be, because originally we were thinking, oh, let's do an upvote and downvote and people decide what trends and what doesn't based upon popularity. And then I'm just sitting here thinking, and I'm like, so then all you have to do is if you just cater to your base and just preach to the choir, and then or let's just say people weaponize that against you, and they just get a bunch of people to downvote it.
That's what they do.
You're screwed. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I'm like, I want to encourage people to have interesting and nuanced conversations, and also don't be afraid to say something that's controversial. But if you're afraid of that algorithm of the upvote and the downvote, and that's going to affect you, you're not going to say something that may be controversial or outside the box or things like that.
Self-censor.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm looking at it like, okay, so both of those are seen as a positive form of engagement, because you just said something that's maybe somebody said, hey, I disagree with that. But that's a good thing. We should be okay with disagreeing with each other and not be afraid of that. So we're definitely not going the Reddit route of it's not a popularity contest when it comes to the upvote, downvote. It's just another way of you being able to engage with that post.
How did the rally go yesterday? Like, did you have a big turnout? Was anything interesting happen? Was it kumbaya and bonfires and marshmallows? How did that work out for you?
Just so in case you can't see it, we have it up on the screen. This is from the walk away rally was it in Beverly Hills, Jeff? I'm from
So it started in West Hollywood, and then we went over to Beverly Hills. So
and what was this rally about?
Yeah, so my friend Brandon Strzok, he's got an organization called Walk Away, where what he does is he just goes around and he lets people know that, hey, you just because you are in his case, so he's a gay conservative now, but he used to be a Democrat, and so he's like, just because you're a part of this class of people, whether it's gay, African American, minority, whatever it is, doesn't mean that you have to vote Democrats. So the whole point of it is just saying, like, look, don't just, again, like I always say, don't just play follow the leader. You can think for yourself, and whether or not you will continue to vote Democrat is totally fine, but just know you don't have to just because you happen to be a part of this classification class. And so we ended up starting in West Hollywood. Initially, we were going to do a march through WeHo, and then Antifa showed up, and things started getting a little spicy. And so Brandon pulls me aside. He's like, do you think we should do our intended route? I'm like, I think we should probably just go straight towards Beverly Hills, because we had police protection in Beverly Hills, but not in West Hollywood. And so West Hollywood came out with a statement where before our event that said that we don't condone this event, and this event does not represent the values of West Hollywood. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, literally the message of this entire event was, you have value because you're an individual, not because you're part of a classification of a group. And so like, why is that bad? And we said from the stage multiple times, these protesters that are over here, it's like, we're here to defend your right to speak too. We believe that everybody as an individual is created in the image of God, and you have intrinsic value by being an individual. And so everybody, left, right, whatever it is, you have value, and your thoughts matter, and your speech matters, and the whole deal. But it was a great event, but it was definitely getting a little crazy, because we did have Antifa in their full get up, and you could tell who were the legitimate protesters that were there, because they truly believe that what we were doing is bad. And I get it, I disagree with them, obviously. But then you had the instigators that were there that you could tell were trying to start something. There was one guy that was arrested. It was definitely a wild experience.
Look, I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised. It was like I was born, turned 18, and like somehow I was automatically enrolled into being a Democrat. Although I haven't voted Democrat since Al Gore. and all of that fell apart. I've primarily voted progressive, but this time around I did vote for Donald Trump, and I've said it publicly, and I've never voted Republican before in my entire life. So stuff like this appeals to people like me, right?
Yeah.
Like, and what you're saying, what Pickax represents, it appeals to people like me, right? Like I don't know if I'm kind of a moderate, or I just, whatever makes sense. It's a la carte, topic a la carte, right? It's like, I might go way right on this thing, but I might go way progressive on this other thing. Yep. And, above all, I'm going to do what feels right to me. Like, forget all, whatever the label is, don't care. So something like this, and I believe, Ted, we've had Brandon Straka on when we were at Radio Sputnik. Right. I think it was the day that I was off. So I remember, being excited to hear that he was going on the program, because I think more people need to understand that this is, politics should not be weaponized into small political camps, or large political camps in this case of, this tribalism is what is tearing this country apart. So that said, I don't, unless you have something else, Ted, I want to throw this out at you as the last question, Jeff, is that, given your experience this weekend in WeHo, and the rabble rousers were bound to show up anytime that you're trying to call for unity amongst the population, at what point did, I would say that the left, where I come from the left, at what point did they give up and abandon the idea of free speech and the working class, and why they've lost election after election because of those issues? When did they abandon that, and how and when did it become an issue of the far right?
Yeah. So this is the hard part about this conversation, because it's a very nuanced conversation, and there's a difference between the public perception that's out there in the mainstream media and what's really going on. So like, the last couple of decades, obviously there's been a switch. You go back to like the 70s, whatever it is. Free speech was totally a Democrat thing, and the Republicans were just like, we got to push our conservative values and our Christian values on everybody. And obviously that progressed for a very long time. And I'm saying that as a conservative, lifelong conservative Christian, I've always voted Republican. And the first time I even considered not was this last election cycle, going with RFK when he was running. But what's interesting is that it's like since Trump got in, it's like all of a sudden you really started seeing a lot of really big push from the left talking about like misinformation and disinformation, and especially with COVID that really ramped up. And then all of a sudden you started seeing the conservatives that were started being like, well, hey, you can't censor us, even though we were the ones that were censoring everybody in decades past. You can't censor us. So then all of a sudden everything flipped. And but then now I'm seeing like a lot of conservative and a lot of MAGA people, the same ones that were censored throughout COVID and all the craziness, they're now talking about like, how dare you platform this person? How dare you do this? And I'm just like, come on, guys, can we just like be consistent? And this is where
nope. We can't.
Careful. Neither side, nope. I would argue this, neither side is consistent at all. And the perfect example of this is this whole continuing resolution fight that we have every year or whatever it is, where it's like when a Democrat's in charge, Republicans oppose the continuing resolution. When a Republican's in charge, the Democrats oppose the continuing resolution. And I'm like, you guys are the same coin, just different sides of it. You guys are both doing the exact same thing. And so when we're talking about free speech and censorship and all of that, it just comes down to whoever's in power. Is really what it comes down to. And it's really frustrating, because it's like when Republicans are in charge, and right now you've got Republicans in charge, it's like all of a sudden now we're just sitting here and we're like, okay, well let's deplatform everybody, let's censor, let's why are you doing, and
let's censor colleges and universities.
Yeah, I'm just like, can we just have free speech? Can we
censor Gaza protesters?
Exactly.
But everybody likes free speech for their side, and they hate the free speech of the other side. That's all it is.
And this was one thing that got me in trouble. Even my colleges. I went to a very conservative Christian, Baptist school in Arizona, when Arizona was coming up with they were trying to put in a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage, and I remember saying telling a lot of my conservative Christian friends, I'm like, I don't think that this is the fight that you guys actually want to have, because the pendulum swings back and forth. And so when conservatives are pushing to ban gay marriage, you're like, okay, cool. Maybe you have the majority now, and you guys are trying to push, your religious beliefs and all that. Totally fine. You're well within your right to do so, but just be aware that that pendulum is going to swing back the other way, and you guys are going to be outnumbered. If this is just a popularity contest among Christians or whatever it is, like, that pendulum's going to swing. All of a sudden, you guys are going to be outnumbered at some point. Is this really the battle that you guys want to have, where it's just going to be a popularity contest between, let's say, Christians and Muslims and atheists and all of that about who has the most people in this country? Or do we just want to fight for constitutional rights? And I think that that's something that I think a lot of people, they start identifying with their team. And then it's just whatever I have to do to have my team win is what I'm going to do, as opposed to taking a step back, figure out, what's my worldview? What do I actually believe? Why do I actually believe it? And then align with people based upon who most closely aligns with your worldview. And I think that that's the more sane way of dealing with things. But everybody is just in this team sport mentality of, if you're a Republican, you have to destroy the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, you have to destroy the Republicans. And you're just yelling past each other. And I'm just like, I agree with both on different things. And it's crazy.
I couldn't agree more about that. I mean, yeah. And also part of that team politics that drives me crazy is that when your side is doing something that is objectively ridiculous, like pretending that your senile president isn't senile, or deporting 2-year-old American babies, you have to go along with it because after all, it's your side. But if the other side were doing it, then you'd be yelling at them for doing it.
Yeah. And both sides play the gotcha game. And how dare you do that? And if you did this, you would be upset. And I'm just like, you guys are both upset at each other for doing the exact same thing constantly.
Right.
And, and I'm just like the utter hypocrisy in politics is so frustrating, but it's very easy to get sucked into it because everybody just looks for confirmation bias because they're going for the team sport and my side needs to win. My side needs to do this. And I'm just like, but what do you actually believe about all this? Like illegal immigration is a perfect example where it's like, if you're a Democrat, you have to oppose illegal immigration because Donald Trump is opposing border security because Donald Trump is for it. It's like, but just not that many years ago, you were supporting border security and building a wall and all this kind of stuff
and deporting millions of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, at a certain point, do you guys see the hypocrisy? But nobody does, because it's just about, I have to own the Democrats or I have to own the Republicans.
Totally.
And it's like, this is going to end very badly for our country unless we get people to take a step back and stop identifying as a political party and start just identifying as, what do I believe? What are my principles? And then unite with people where you agree and debate with people that you disagree, but don't see each other as the enemy. There's only a small number of people that I count as my enemy in this country. And it's a very, very, very small percentage. The vast majority of Americans, we agree on a lot more than we actually disagree.
Yeah. Studies have shown that too.
Yeah. But
Totally.
When you're only focusing on the wedge issues, it feels like we're a lot more divided than we actually are.
Totally.
Well said.
Yeah. Jeff Dornik, everybody, go check out pickax.com. It's only available in the US, as Jeff says right now. So it's, I don't know what in the tech world is it called, beta, right? It's in the beta.
Yeah, technically beta. I converted it from beta to pre-launch. Basically, it's fully live right now, web-based only.
Okay.
We're going to be rolling out an app here in the next couple of months. And then I just had to jump through some extra hoops because we want to be a free speech platform, but still be accepted into the app stores. And so we're the way that we're actually doing that is our verification process, because we're weeding out the anonymous trolls and the bots, which usually are the ones pushing a lot of the horrific rhetoric.
Right.
So we had to do some extra stuff in order to make sure we could still be free speech.
See, that's really great, because if this were in real life, which obviously social media platforms are the new town square, if you're saying hateful, horrible things, whether it's like anti-Semitic, like I hate the Jews or whatever, or like, Black Lives Matter, you're gonna get faced with whoever's walking by. You're bound to offend somebody. And you can't hide, because they'll see your face. You are there. There will be some kind of reckoning or accountability. So I guess this is the only way to stop that, is like having real people and not some anonymous, free account troll that's just, you can make 20 accounts, 200 accounts, and you just fill up the platform with toxicity. Like, I think people are tired of that. And certainly grown adults like me are tired of that. It's just like, I hate Twitter. I find myself on Pinterest because I'm a middle-aged suburban soccer mom. So
I can't even figure out how Pinterest works. I think it's like a genetic testing thing, like it knows I'm a guy, so it just doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for straight dudes. It just it's not a thing.
I got to say, Pinterest is probably. I could see a scenario, and I'd have to look into the back end of the way Pinterest works. I could see a scenario where that's a massive data collection scheme, because they can tell all of your interests. They can tell every single, like, the kind of data collection that they can do is insane.
Oh yeah, because I have boards for everything where I'm like, dream kitchen inspo, dream living room inspo,
Yeah.
So they know right away I'm a homeowner. I'm probably a middle-aged mom. I probably live in the suburbs. I probably have, this many kids. I have a husband, it knows. So it knows market to me. It even markets comfortable shoes to me.
Exactly.
Well, enjoy those comfortable shoes.
Yeah, I'm considering. I'm in my mid-40s. You just got to do orthopedic.
I just ordered shoes today.
Don't be a hater.
Plantar fasciitis. Anyway, yeah.
That's right. Jeff Dornik, CEO of Pickax. He's a free speech advocate as well. Thank you so much for carving out time out of the busy CEO life. I don't know anything about it or tech, so I just know it sounds crazy and hectic. We'll certainly be following up with you, and I'll be signing up to check out what's, you got to see what's out there, right? Like, and see where it feels most comfortable. Maybe I'll also be more comfortable at Pickax than X, I don't like X, to be honest.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus now.
Yeah, it's ugly. It just makes me angry and sad, and I don't want to feel that way. So
totally.
There's that. Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate your time.
Jeff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. All right. So Ted, we got, I'm interested to see how it plays out. Obviously,
I mean, it's a crowded space. It's definitely going to be challenging.
I already don't like social media to begin with, but if there is a place that I can at least pop on to see the news that interests me and what people from around, all over the country are saying, in the way that Twitter does that, because you can see things happening in real time, right? Like, the whole reason we know the atrocities happening in Gaza in real time is because of Twitter and other social media, right?
True.
So in that sense, something like Pickaxe would be good for me to at least be scrolling. I'm not much of a poster, but I like to see things happening from the ground, so I know what's up happening. Dayton, Ohio. I don't know, Ted, anywhere. Yeah. But anyway, do you want to do a few minutes? We can just read through real quickly.
Yeah,
don't need a lot of commentary. There's a lot of news that I feel like we shouldn't ignore, that we need to get to real quick. I'm going to hit the jaws.
Trump has accused Vladimir Putin of launching attacks against civilian areas in Ukraine for, quote, no reason, and not wanting to, quote, stop the war, and is threatening Moscow with new sanctions. This statement comes just as Putin reiterated Russia's readiness for unconditional talks with Kiev during a recent meeting with Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. This is all very complicated. We only strike military targets or civilian sites used by the military. That, according to the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. Trump issued his threat in a post on Truth Social after he met with Zelensky over at the Vatican for that funeral for Pope Francis. Trump
perfect place for a meeting.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
And it's nice to see Zelensky dressed up for the occasion. Trump sharply criticized Russia's continuing long-range strikes against Ukraine, saying that Russia wants to prolong the hostilities. Trump and Zelensky met on the sidelines of that funeral. And then Europe's support for Zelensky was apparent also at the funeral. Zelensky the Z-Man got to hang out with Keir Starmer of the UK, Emmanuel Macron of France, Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Meanwhile, Putin had lengthy talks with Steve Witkoff, at the Kremlin. The meeting took place behind closed doors, as previously, but this time at the Kremlin. Putin, I think that's symbolically very resonant. Putin's foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov and presidential investment envoy Kirill Dmitriev also took part in that meeting. According to Ushakov, the 3-hour conversation, 3 hours is a long time for something like this, between Witkoff and Putin was very constructive and useful in nature. Apart from multiple rounds of high-level talks around the conflict in Ukraine, Russia and the U.S. are also negotiating restarting their diplomatic contacts frozen under Biden. So, Manila, I think what's going on here is that actually the two sides, when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, and the United States for the war, are closer than like U.S. media would like to admit. Lavrov and other comments stated that there's a few points that need to be ironed out, but that Russia is ready for an agreement. In other words, it's not like, well, we're done, but clearly they're not saying they're far apart either, right? So I think they're not, and there's no reason really for them to be far apart, given what's on the table with I think, and then look, I think Trump, I'm sure, has conveyed to the Russians, I'm going to have to beat you up a little bit for domestic consumption, but don't worry, we're good.
Well, so Ted, do you believe what happened at the Vatican? I mean, you see these two talking, and then Trump puts out that stupid tweet. That's
just to make everyone shut up.
You think so? You don't
Trump
think
hasn't
he
changed his mind
bought into this?
No,
hook,
Trump
line,
hasn't changed his mind about Zelensky. Trump doesn't like him. He thinks Ukraine provoked the war, and he's just not. I don't think that he's changed anything. Also, more to the point, look, the U.S.-Russia train is pulling out of the station with or without Ukraine. In other words, even if there's no resolution to the conflict, Trump's going to end the sanctions and normalize relations with Russia and get back to doing business over energy and other things with Russia, even if there's no end to the conflict. So, and unless you're dumb as rocks in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian hierarchy, you're going to say, okay, well, we got to get whatever we can get out of this now while the getting is good, because it's only going to get worse later.
Zelensky tweeted immediately after Trump's Truth Social post about Vladimir bad and maybe I'm second guessing, but then literally after Trump's truth, after the funeral services, as he's boarding back onto Air Force One, he starts kind of slightly slagging Zelensky again and being very moderate, taking a moderate approach towards Putin again. So he's kind of all over the place. And I'd also like to point out that I was right. Zelensky did not have enough respect to put on a fucking suit. What he's wearing there is the shirt equivalent of cargo pants.
True.
I mean, it just is.
Although Trump didn't dress appropriately either, And I don't know if you know this, but I think I've mentioned this. I was supposed to meet with Pope Francis. The LA Times didn't let me. Anyway, the Vatican sends very strict protocols about how you're to dress, how you are to a live Pope. And then, that's for the live Pope. So with the dead Pope, everything's supposed to be black, and even the red, even Trump's suit. People were criticizing him more than Zelensky. Look, he at least wore a suit. It really technically should have been a black suit.
It should have been a black suit.
So I don't know what it is with people who just can't follow simple instructions. It's an IQ test. They both fail.
And Zelensky, I mean, look, I don't know if people were just giving him a pass because at least it had a collar and buttons.
Yeah, it's
not even tucked in. It's not even tucked in.
I know.
He's
such a schlump.
God, what an.
Anyway, I thought the whole thing. So I think, look, I think that, you can't take this. There's a lot of bluster here on all sides. Trump had to take the meeting with Zelensky because there's so much pro-Ukraine sentiment in the U.S. in its internal politics. There's no way he can just completely blow him off, after what happened in the Oval Office. But I think, I'm optimistic that we're going to end up with a peace agreement.
This right here is where the real deal is being worked out.
Yeah, 3 hours. I mean, he wouldn't
that right there.
I'm sure Putin bloviated over, the medieval history of the Russian Federation
for 2 hours.
Yeah, for 2 hours in the 16th. You may not know, in 1512 we have situation in Moldova, but still, that's a lot of time to talk about things. Clearly, the U.S. is going to normalize relations. Clearly, the sanctions are going away. There's no question about that.
Look at the smile on Vladimir Putin's face. That's a genuine smile. And
he came to Moscow. That's massive.
I mean, look at the smile on his face. That is genuine. He had like a warm look in his eyes.
Yeah. Well, Putin, come on. This is Putin's victory lap. He's like, yeah, things are happening my way. That's how it is. That's right, bitches.
Like everyone was over here looking at the shiny thing at the Vatican.
For 3 years. It's been the Russians have been beaten up. So when you get vindicated, you kind of like get to relations. You get to take a victory lap. That's how that works. They were
beaten up public relations wise.
Yeah.
In reality,
I don't mean on the front. I don't mean in the war. I just mean like
everybody's like, look over here, shiny thing, Vatican, Trump. Ooh, what did he wear?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the Kremlin in Moscow, that is where the real business with the real adults,
no question,
was really actually happening. So pay no mind. I hope pay no mind to what Trump is truthing, what Zelensky is tweeting. Pay attention to what's happening right here on your screen between those two men. That's where the real deal is being hammered out. And those expressions upon seeing each other speaks a million words.
Oh, yeah. No question about it. All right, so let's move on here. 28 people have been killed, 800 injured in an explosion in southern Iran. That, according to the official IRNA news agency. There's a public health emergency and airborne toxic pollutants have been released. This happened in Shahid Raji port in the southern city of Bandar Abbas. In video published by the BBC, an enormous fire plume can be seen erupting into a bigger, darker pillar of smoke. Hossein Zafari, spokesman for the Crisis Management Unit for Iran, told the Iranian news site ILNA that the blast was felt 31 miles away. The cause of the blast is not yet clear. Government officials say it may have been due to improperly stored chemicals. That certainly has happened in many places over the years. President Masoud Pezeshkian described it as an accident, and IRNA said recklessness in storing flammable material had been discussed as a possibility. Authorities don't think terrorism or a military strike had anything to do with it.
Yeah. When I first heard the news break over the weekend, I went, oh, I know who did that. But turns out, no. Human error. I mean, it's bound to happen, but I don't get how flammable materials are not better stored, Ted, like in things that won't go kaboom.
Well, what happens is you have warehouses and they're full of old stuff, and sometimes people forget about it.
God,
company goes out of business.
That's kind of what happened in Lebanon. Remember?
That's exactly what happened in Lebanon
years ago.
In Beirut. And things just sit around for a long time.
Get though that you have hugely
because
flammable,
nobody's checking on it. It's a bunch of old
things.
Every society, there's warehouses, old shit sitting around, and people forget about. That's just how it is.
The death toll has risen to 40, with 1,000 people injured now. So before we head to a different topic, Ted, we've got a word from our sponsor.
We do,
which I think we should get to. We'll pause before we get to more news.
Okay. All right. Well, Robbie, please put it up.
Or we can have Robbie read it.
Or, well, here we go. Here, I'll do it. The New Yorker should do it. It's faster. Okay. This sponsorship is from Rumble, one that's incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built a platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They are attacked from brand advertisers who refused to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium. Use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us here on Rumble. Okay, so let's keep going here. Rice is a staple in Japanese culture and cuisine, so much so that the word for meal is synonymous with cooked rice. But demand for rice is outstripping supply by a lot, causing prices to soar. And Japan is now taking the rare step of releasing rice from its emergency stockpile and turning to imports. The shortage is affecting daily life, where the myriad uses of rice not only include rice itself, but sushi, alcohol, because rice alcohol there is fermented from rice, like sake, as well as ancestral ceremonies. Restaurants are hiking prices and no longer giving free rice refills. Bags of rice this might, by the way, explain why my Indian restaurant sometimes doesn't send me the free rice with my meal anymore, unless I ask for it. Bags of rice are disappearing from the shelves in grocery stores. There's now a limit of 1 bag per customer. Some Japanese tourists are even buying rice when they visit other countries in Asia. 11 pounds of rice costs an average of $30, including tax, as of the second week of April. That's twice as much as a year ago, according to the Ministry of Agriculture. Rice imports, which could leave Japanese farmers vulnerable to competition, are quickly rising. In February, the volume of rice imported by private companies went up by 551 tons, surpassing the total import volume for the entire 2023 fiscal year. South Korea's National Agricultural Co-op confirmed its plans to export up to 24 tons by early June. This will be the biggest such shipment in at least 25 years. This is just a sliver of the overall rice consumption in Japan, which is about 7.8 million tons over the course of an average year, like from July of 2023 going out a year from there. But they underscore the crisis in Japan, which began in summer last year after a heat wave in 2023 led to a smaller and worse quality harvest that fall. So rice be getting pricey in Japan.
Yeah, we covered. Obviously, I'm on Rice Watch, Ted. It's a major thing in my house. You're not in an Asian house unless there is a rice cooker on the counter.
Oh, for sure.
Which we have. It's just a staple in all of Asian food. It's just there for morning, lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all of it, right? So for the Japanese to be going into their rice reserves, that's a big deal. And this is where climate change does, you kind of have to go, oh gee, what, it killed off rice. Rice is a hardy, it's a hardy harvest. It can survive a lot of things, right? Something had to have changed in the Japanese climate last year.
It can't survive drought. I mean,
not drought, but I mean,
because rice grows
very wet
in water. Yeah.
Right. It has to be very wet, obviously, but there's also different types of rice that can survive in drier, wet-ish, not full on.
Yeah, no, rice survives at a lot of different latitudes, right? So yeah.
So there's something happening there for Japan to have gone through a whole year of a bad rice harvest. That's something's up, Ted. And this is where, when it starts affecting food, is where people finally go, oh, maybe climate change is real. When you don't get food production.
Oh, climate change is real. I'm working on a project right now that's forcing me to read up a lot about climate change. Manila, it's absolutely terrifying. I mean, it is a lot worse than anybody is talking about. I mean, it's not like a if. It's a yes, and it's going to be. It is already massive, and this. I mean, look. The truth is, there is a 70% chance of total civilizational collapse by the year 2100. In other words, our kids and grandkids will live to see if there's a 70% chance that by the year 2100, literally there won't be nation states anymore, that we'll be living in small clans, that we will be living, that the written word will disappear, that people will go back to oral history. I mean, we're going to be lucky. We're going to be lucky if we get back to the state of civilization as it was in the year 1600. Everything will just fall apart. No more computers, no more cars, like no phones. All that's gone. Electricity, grid, collapse, done.
It's going to be a fight for resources,
and the population is going to fall. Human population is going to fall off a cliff. I mean,
chief among them is the fight for resources, which is water and rice, which for pretty much any country on earth, like everybody eats rice, right? Like
food.
Rice is food in general, but like this is like a basic minimum from around the world. They drop bags of rice, when they drop off food in Africa.
I mean, we are idiots not to be making climate change the most. It should be 90% of the federal budget should be dedicated to fighting climate change. It's all we should be doing. We should be get together with all of the major countries of the world just to deal with this. That should be like China, Russia, India, Brazil. We all have to get together and work this stuff out. It's human survival. An asteroid is headed toward the Earth. We're all going to die here.
Make sure we can eat. Oh, speaking of eating, Ted, you told me about this story, about this next story.
Oh yeah, let's do it. All right, so turns out there's a guy. They finally arrested a dude. Oh, by the way, you'll be happy to know that the corpse fucker is now in custody. The alleged corpse fucker, after 3 weeks of running loose in the city of New York, has been apprehended. Of course, he's an alleged corpse fucker. He's not a convicted corpse fucker. And in America, you're not a corpse fucker legally until a jury of your peers has decided that you're a corpse fucker. So he's at this point an alleged corpse fucker. I'm gonna just keep saying that.
This is the guy on the subway, right?
And this is the on the subway. Yep, that's right. So an alky
we're giving you updates real quick.
37-year-old alky dude died of alcoholism on the subway. And then after he died, some other dude.
The guy that died was 37?
Some other dude came along and was like, that guy looks cute. I'm going to tap that. I'm going to tap that dead guy. So anyway, that's where we are. Okay, so maybe we deserve to all die from climate change. Yeah. Maybe. But anyway, so the guy who got
this story.
So Kristi Noem, by the way, who's her face came up on, I think this is important to say, her face came up on the news on my TV, and my cat Clovis, he hissed at it. He hissed. So I think he never does that. He's a very sweet cat. I think he has dog solidarity because he's like that's a bad person.
She'd be killing canines.
Well, she is a bad person. Anyway, so Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, her purse is MIA. And her purse had $3,000, passport, and hilariously her Homeland Security badge and ID and fob. Anyway, that was all stolen when she was out to dinner with her family. Ed Martin, AG for DC, said that the guy that they finally caught was supposedly an illegal immigrant. Color me extremely skeptical on this because it really feeds I'm not saying there aren't zillions of illegal immigrants in this country. There are, but this really feeds the narrative in a way that's like, it's too delicious, We know Ed Martin both. I know Ed and his family personally. I don't think he would make that up. Okay, well, I hope so. I hope not. And there are. And they say they're looking for. He has an accomplice. There's professional capacity here. Apparently, he had an accomplice. There's no word on whether the money or the passport or the badge were recovered. Right, or if it was used. I'm sure the money got siphoned up and used or spent very easily. Hopefully, it was spent to buy some good dog food for dogs that needed it. But there are a lot of illegal migrants in the Northern Virginia area, and as you know, chief among the
undocumented or semi-documented or disputed documented people is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy that got shipped off to the CCOT Supermax prison in El Salvador. He's from the DMV area. There are a lot. People always think of like Southern California or Arizona or Texas as having like all the illegals. There's a lot of them here. So, purse snatcher, illegal migrant, it's believable to me. It's
not impossible. It's just sort of like, okay, everything's coming together.
I trust
there.
Eddie. I trust Ed Martin.
I guess I'll trust him. I don't trust her as far as her dog can throw her.
Not her, but Ed Martin I do trust because I've known him for a decade. And
I will say that like that video that she filmed, she should be tried for war crimes just for, and I'm not even kidding, that video that she made at the El Salvador prison with the dudes behind her. So that's actually a violation of the Geneva Conventions to humiliate prisoners on camera. Yeah. It's illegal under international law, what she did. So she's gross and disgusting. Anyway, it's a story you have to see to believe. One Virginia woman says she was traumatized after a snake fell out of the ceiling of a Mexican restaurant in Henrico County and right into her marg. Carletta Andrews said it happened
Margarita, for those that don't know.
Well, if you don't know, then you shouldn't know. Carletta Andrews say that this all went down at the Patron Mexican Restaurant and Cantina in Sandston on the evening of April 16th, in case you were wondering about the exact date. In the exclusive interview with Channel 8 anchor Autumn Childress, Andrews said that she and her husband had just finished their food when she felt something on her forehead, as one does when a snake falls on it. I leaned in to take a sip, and I noticed something hit me on the forehead, and I looked at my husband like, what was that? And hubby, when I turned around, I saw the snake in my margarita. It was moving. It started wrapping around my straw. It doesn't say how big this snake was. I kind of want to know that.
Well, you can look right here. Pause and look right there. It's a little baby snake.
Okay. All right. So maybe like 9 inches or a foot long.
Yeah.
Maybe a foot.
He's small enough to, be draped.
Did she finish the margarita? Or all right. Anyway.
Well, she snapped a video.
It was moving. It started wrapping around my straw, she said. The rest is a blur. She said she recalls restaurant workers trying to remove the snake with a stick, but another customer grabbed it and released it outside. I kept saying, please don't let it go in my purse. I left shaking. I was traumatized. Still in shock, but not too much in shock. She posted the photo on social media because this is still America, right? Like
that's right.
Like if the corpse fucking victim.
If you don't have the video, it didn't happen.
Maybe the corpse himself could have come back to life. And if he had, for a moment, he would have posted his ordeal to social media. Anyway, one commenter wrote, the way my soul would have left my body. Another person wrote, girl, they would have been taking me to the king. Elvis? Anyway, records show inspectors found several violations during a routine inspection in December, including mold, broken handles, missing ceiling tile, that one's crucial, in the dish room, cracked floor tiles throughout the kitchen, and leaky ceiling tiles. I see a theme here. Records show that these violations were corrected, however, in a follow-up inspection 6 days later. I don't know if they checked for snakes. Andrews said, precautions or not, she hopes something can be done to prevent another person from leaving scarred. If that was the baby, I fear. Is the mom there? Yeah, here. Let me just tell you. The answer is yeah, because that's biology.
Yuck. Wait, so even with snakes, after the babies hatch from the eggs, the mama is still around?
The mama's around, yeah. And there's usually several. The mama has a bunch of baby snakes, right? Ugh. So typically, yeah. So my in-laws, they lived in California, and in their garage they had rattlers nesting in like the shelves, and turns out mama rattler had like baby rattlers, so that's good times. And of course, my father-in-law was an Asian badass, so for him, this was an opportunity to like kill them and eat them. So he did.
Oh my god!
So he went to town. It was like it's barbecue time, but
oh my
he
god,
was a badass. I would call my father, who used to be in the Air Force, and ask him if he could call out an airstrike on my house.
Yes,
but
and just start over.
Just nuke it to be sure. Like Sigourney Weaver, just to be sure, nuke the planet. Yes. Yeah.
So apparently here in Virginia, and I'm just now learning about this because I know about, like the climate and the animals and creatures that come from California, and like it's kind of arid, right? It's a desert.
Sure.
I don't know much about the creatures that lurk in Virginia. I didn't know that Virginia has a snake season, Ted, and I'm in it now.
So what kind of snakes do you have?
I don't know the names of them, but these big scary ones like you're seeing on the screen.
Are they poison? I'm looking up poisonous snakes.
I heard they're not poisonous, though, is what I kind of briefly read.
New York has 4 types of poisonous snakes.
Snake season begins in Virginia. Seek medical assistance if bitten, is what the local ABC.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot, brainiacs. Duh. Yeah,
hey. But apparently snake season starts in Virginia as temperatures rise. So we're now in that season.
Well, yeah, of course.
And it is.
Ooh, you have some major poisonous snakes in Virginia. You have the timber rattler snake, which has one of my favorite Latin names, Crotalus horridus. You've got the northern cottonmouth. That's also a nasty dude, and the eastern copperhead. So these are There's only 3 venomous snakes out of 32 snake species entirely. It is important to note that in the state of Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it is illegal to kill a snake unless it directly threatens you or your livestock. Maybe, and I don't know if it counts if they send you a threatening message on social media, but
how do I prove it was like? What if I'm hiking along in Great Falls and I come across one, and somehow I just like crush it with a stone?
Well, I mean, if it's an accident, like you were throwing the stone, you're like, you could use that as a defense. But if let's say the snake is just
get a big rock,
chilling,
bash it.
If the snake is chilling,
because I would be prone to doing that, Ted. Like my reaction is kill it. Like that is.
My reaction would be to get away from it. That would be me. But it's out. You're outside. You're in its space. You should leave him alone.
Well, okay. I guess now I know I can get in trouble if I kill it.
Yeah, don't. No, now you know. I didn't know it was illegal to kill snakes.
I didn't know that either.
I figured there's just like a pest.
Right. Okay. I guess now I know. But at least he is not in my margarita.
That's true.
And since you were reading, you didn't see the video, Ted. Here's what you missed on screen. It's this little baby snake. So he's only slightly thicker than a straw.
I saw him. Yeah. He's very small for sure. And we don't know what kind of snake he was either. He could be.
But somebody grabbed him and threw him outside. So
yeah, I would have grabbed the entire margarita and just been like, all of you guys out, rouse.
No, dude, throw that thing down the garbage disposal. Just, done.
But then
that's what I would have done.
Mama snake might come. Angry.
No, Mama snake didn't even know where this one. Just down the garbage disposal. Done. You're done. Done. No worries. And then you need to send the inspector up to the attic or whatever of this restaurant.
Outside was the right move, and for sure. Especially because that little guy like that's not going to hurt you.
But he'll grow up to become something.
Well, that's why you put him outside, so he has a chance to grow up, live his life.
No, I say dump it in the garbage disposal and turn it on fast.
Okay, well,
that's me.
Yeah.
See it outside, grab a huge rock and stone it to death. Done.
There are a lot of, snakes are awesome actually, but yeah, I used to work in the herpetology exhibit at my Boy Scout camp when I was a summer camp counselor, and I couldn't believe I felt like they just signed me to that because they didn't like me, and so they're like, oh, let's have Ted go and handle the rat snakes, and I won't lie, I was scared, but I couldn't admit to other dudes that I was scared, so I had to be like, oh, no big deal. Inside I'm like, boom, 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 right. So it was actually great. I got to learn how to handle them. And they're not, they're once you know what you're doing, it's not really that big a deal.
Look, I'm not for killing everything. I'm not generally afraid of big spiders, rats, mice. I'm not afraid, but a snake, because we have so many bitey ones in California, I think it's just growing up in California,
California is kind of a place, and please don't take this the wrong way, that nobody should live.
No, I agree. I know it's not meant for man.
Okay, there we go. The climate's terrible. I mean, imagine if you break down your car. Yeah, there's no water. You break down your car. Let's just say no one came to get you. You're dead within hours.
I would take life into my own hands when I was anchoring out in Arizona, and I'd come home every weekend because my mom was recovering from a really bad TBI from a neuroaneurysm, and I would drive through. Sometimes I would drive through Death Valley and go through the Salton Sea, which is the lowest point in California, where it used to be. It's a dried out seabed of sorts, and there's literally nothing there. It is, if you run out of gas, if you didn't get gas before you found yourself along the Salton Sea, you're shit out of luck, man. Yeah. You better hope you get cell service, because it is just,
so you've got
far as the eye can see.
You've got wildfires, you've got race riots, you've got mudslides, earthquakes, tsunamis.
It's a very inhospitable state.
It's horrible. It's a terrible place. California dream my ass. It's a nightmare. All right, we got a quick ad here. We got to do this. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, then check out Truth Social. That's Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures. If you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts and get on Truth Social today, join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. I'm on Truth Social.
You're a truther?
I am a truth. I'm not a 9/11 truther, but I am on Truth Social. Are you a 9/11 truther? I'm like, there's only one aspect of the official story that I don't really buy, but I was friends. My former best friend, he was a total truther. He believed that the missiles had struck the World Trade Center and not planes. And
I believe the planes hit it.
And he was like, he believed in that movie In Plain Sight and all that. I
believe there's other stuff afoot. I don't think we know. And
I don't believe that United Flight 93 was brought down by the drink cart of death and Todd Beamer. I don't believe that. I think it was shot down by the U.S. Air Force, and I think that the U.S. Air Force did the right thing by doing that.
It's very possible, but it's too ugly of a thing to say. Well, people don't know, Ted, that the military has. I don't know if it's a right, but it is a part of policy that if you're deemed a threat, that they take you down.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I wouldn't
even if
like
it's a civilian aircraft.
But if that were my relative, if that were me on that plane, and I knew that it was headed toward, the Capitol or something, I would be like, this sucks to be me, but I would totally understand why it would be shot down. I really would.
Yeah.
It would be like,
I have a lot of questions about that. So, but that's for another show, maybe a 9/11 anniversary show.
We could do a 9/11 show.
Speaking of anniversaries, I think tomorrow might be the anniversary of the LA riots. I need to double check. But maybe we should mention that tomorrow. That was a big thing. That was before, it was BLM. Before BLM, it was, like racial issues stirring in LA in 1992. And I remember these.
I remember the riots very vividly. And I ended up with an accidental housemate in New York because a friend of mine lived in LA. He came home and there were some dudes outside of his apartment building. He lived in South Central. And they were about to set fire to his building.
Good time.
And he talked to them, and he's like, guys, do you mind not setting my building on fire? Give me a few minutes to run in and get some essentials. So he went upstairs, filled up a duffel with whatever he could think of, and then said, thanks, guys, and then took a cab straight to LAX, and then showed up in New York, and he's like, I don't live in LA anymore. I'm done. And he never went back.
That was it, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the rooftop Koreans. I remember LAPD being dirtbaggy and complicit and basically locking all the people in. It's
shocking.
So, yeah, I think we have a guest planned for tomorrow, but anyway, we'll talk about this off air. So that'll do it for us today with your snake drink. Maybe, but Ted, remember, a lot of Mexican drinks have snakes already meant to be in them. They're in the tequilas.
Wait, that's a worm. You mean like mezcal?
No, snakes.
What are you talking about, woman? What are you talking?
Dude, I grew up with the Mexicans. I'm telling you.
What snake?
I'm honorary Mexican. I don't know. I don't ask the snake. I've just seen.
You said there's like a live snake inside your drink?
No, not alive. Like they're marinating in the
So it's
thing. I don't drink them. I just
Serpento Muerta?
It's a thing. It's a thing. It is a thing. Go look it up.
Wow.
You know, so
Clovis is saying it's time for lunch.
Yeah, we're leaving everybody with that snake margarita. So
all right. Bye,
have a good
everyone.
one, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much. Hit like, hit subscribe. Manila Chan, Ted Rall, producer Robbie, banished to the backstage. We thank you for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.